Imagine treating life satisfaction like a routine trip to the grocery store.
Right, just grabbing what you need.
Exactly. You walk down the aisles of your 20s and 30s, and you just assume you have to pull the right items off the shelf. You find
Okay.
the right job, you buy the right house, you hit that exact right income bracket, and bam, you just toss satisfaction into your cart, head to the checkout, and you're done.
Well, if only it were that simple.
Right. I mean, we all know logically that life doesn't actually work that way. But our modern culture constantly pushes us to believe we can just, well, buy our way into feeling fulfilled. So today, we are completely throwing out that shopping cart model.
We really have to. It
Hmm.
requires a fundamental paradigm shift because the overarching theme of the sources we are analyzing today isn't about acquiring anything external at all. The central concept is sovereignty.
Sovereignty.
Yeah, it's about how routine, resilience, and purpose create what ancient philosophers called an inner citadel.
Like a fortress.
Exactly, a psychological fortress. One that the outside world, no matter how chaotic or demanding it gets, simply cannot breach.
And for you listening right now, this is really a blueprint for building a genuinely unshakable life. We're pulling from this fascinating collection of readings titled, What Practice Builds, No One Can Take.
It's a great collection.
It really is. We are looking at ancient Stoics, modern management thinkers like Peter Drucker, sleep scientists like Matt Walker, and historical biographer Walter Isaacson. But to ground all of this, we really have to start with a single framing thought from the Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield.
Yeah, his perspective is crucial here.
He suggests that true satisfaction is absolutely not a possession you acquire. Rather, it is a disposition that you actively cultivate through insight, faith, and, well, deep compassion.
And that distinction between a possession and a disposition is just everything. I mean, a possession can be lost, right? Or
Yeah.
stolen, or it just degrades over time. But a disposition is an internal architecture.
It's built into you.
Exactly. And Cornfield adds that this disposition is ultimately completed by being devoted to sharing it with others, which is interesting because it moves satisfaction from this, selfish pursuit to a communal one.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because realizing that fulfillment is an inside job completely changes the entire trajectory of how we spend our days.
Oh, absolutely.
If we aren't shopping for satisfaction, we actually have to construct it.
Yeah.
And building that unshakable life, that inner citadel, it has to start from the ground up with our daily routines. But I do want to set a very clear boundary here before we go any further.
That's probably a good idea.
When we talk about routine and discipline, we're absolutely not talking about modern hustle culture.
Yeah.
We aren't advocating for grinding yourself into dust or, optimizing every single second of your day for maximum economic output.
No, far from it. And Peter Drucker, who, is widely considered the founder of modern management, he draws a really sharp and vital distinction here.
What does he say?
Well, he completely reframes how we view daily effort. He points out the difference between simply liking a task and actually enjoying the discipline of the work itself.
No.
He uses the example of master pianists. A concert pianist doesn't necessarily feel like this overwhelming joy every single time they sit down to play 3 hours of basic repetitive scales.
Right, because at a certain point, a scale is just a scale.
Yeah.
The novelty wore off decades ago.
Precisely. But Drucker notes that the master pianist deeply enjoys the discipline of it. They enjoy the friction. Because even after playing for 40 years, they can still feel their neural pathways refining, right? Their physical execution improving.
Wow.
And the phrase pianists use to describe this is incredibly exact. They say, I practice until I have my life in my fingers.
Have my life in my fingers. That is, wow. That completely changes the texture of hard work.
It really does.
It's like going to the gym. You might hate the physical burn in the moment, but you love the feeling of the discipline. You love getting stronger. It's less like forcing yourself through a grueling workout and more like a master carpenter slowly carving a piece of hardwood. You might not love the physical exhaustion of sanding the wood for hours, but you enter this meditative state where you love the reality of the discipline.
Yeah, you love watching the grain emerge.
Yeah.
You are physically building a capability within yourself.
Exactly. But let me ask you this. That capability requires something much more complex than just blind, endless repetition, right?
It does. And this is where sleep scientist Matt Walker adds a crucial piece to our blueprint.
Oh, the sleep aspect.
Yeah. He points out a biological reality that completely dismantles hustle culture. He argues that the old adage is actually wrong. Practice does not make perfect.
Ah.
Yeah. Practice plus a good night's sleep makes perfect.
Wait, let me push back on that for a second.
Yeah.
Because the reality of the modern workplace often dictates the exact opposite.
Sure, I hear that a lot.
Like if I have a massive project due or some tight creative deadline, pulling an all-nighter feels like the only way to prove my dedication. Modern work culture heavily praises the person who sleeps 3 hours and works 21. So if Matt Walker says we need rest to consolidate practice, are we fundamentally sabotaging our own growth when we pull all-nighters to grind?
What's fascinating here is the actual neuroscience behind what happens when we stop working. Rest isn't just, a passive break from your practice. It is the biological completion of it.
Completion.
Yes. When you are practicing a skill, whether that's a piano scale, a new programming language, or even a sales pitch, your brain temporarily stores that new information in the hippocampus.
Okay.
And the hippocampus acts almost like a USB flash drive, has very limited storage capacity, and it's highly volatile.
So if you don't download it to the main hard drive, you just lose it.
Exactly. And that download only happens during deep sleep. During very specific cycles of rest, your brain actively transfers those new skills from the hippocampus to the neocortex, where they become permanent structural changes.
Oh, wow.
Without the rest, the repetition simply doesn't consolidate into mastery. The practice is literally wasted. You have to fiercely protect your routines, which absolutely includes your recovery, rather than just performing tasks until you drop.
Which means the all-nighter might help you hit a short-term deadline, but it destroys your long-term capability.
Exactly. And Drucker points out that this dynamic plays out on an organizational scale, too.
How so?
Well, think of a corporate team or a sports franchise that is solely focused on chasing a singular outcome, like a quarterly sales target or a championship trophy.
Right.
That team just empties out physically and emotionally the moment the whistle blows or the quarter ends. But a team that actually enjoys the discipline of the practice itself, they become a true learning organization.
It just keep going.
Yeah, they keep growing and refining their processes, whether anyone is watching or not. So for you listening, evaluate your own daily goals. Are you just desperately chasing the whistle, or are you actually putting your life into your fingers?
That distinction between chasing an outcome and building a capability makes total sense when we're talking about forward momentum. But discipline implies that you are actually moving forward.
Right.
What happens when the machinery breaks down? Because no matter how much you enjoy the routine, everyone hits a wall. What do we do when we find ourselves stuck in a negative, self-defeating loop or a massive creative block?
Well, the sources offer a solution to this that is entirely counterintuitive. And it originates from a 2,000-year-old insight by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus.
Okay, I love the Stoics.
His advice for fighting a stubborn habit or a mental block is shockingly simple. He says, try the opposite.
Try the opposite. I mean, that sounds like something you'd read on a motivational bumper sticker, not a clinical psychological strategy.
It does sound overly simplistic, right? Until you examine how the renowned psychiatrist Viktor Frankl actually applied it.
Oh, the author of Man's Search for Meaning.
Exactly. Frankl survived the Holocaust and went on to develop logotherapy. And he frequently used this exact concept, which he called paradoxical intention, to treat incredibly stubborn habits and phobias in his patients.
And the readings give a very specific and honestly baffling example of this with insomnia, right?
Yes, they do.
Frankl had patients suffering from a severe inability to sleep. But instead of teaching them relaxation techniques or, giving them warm milk and telling them to try to calm down, he did the exact opposite. He instructed his patients to try as hard as humanly possible to stay awake.
Which sounds crazy.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Wait, so if I'm stuck, I shouldn't just try harder? Isn't doing the opposite just giving up and letting the bad habit win? Like telling an insomniac to stay awake sounds like medical malpractice.
This raises an important question about the relationship between voluntary effort and involuntary biology.
Okay.
Sleep is an autonomic nervous system function. It is entirely involuntary. When an insomniac gets into bed and applies intense, conscious, voluntary effort to the situation, saying to themselves, I'm asleep right now, I have a massive meeting tomorrow, they trigger severe performance anxiety.
Which just spikes their cortisol and adrenaline.
Precisely. The brain perceives that intense voluntary effort as a threat response. It activates the sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight mode.
Oh, man.
You simply cannot force an involuntary state of relaxation using a stressed voluntary command. So by instructing the patient to try to stay awake, Frankl completely removed the performance anxiety. He removed the threat.
Wow.
Once the patient stopped fighting to fall asleep, the autonomic nervous system was able to just naturally take over, and they fell asleep.
So it's not surrender at all. It's a deliberate reversal of polarity.
Yeah.
You just stop fighting the current and you step out of the river altogether.
Epictetus understood this psychological mechanism millennia ago. When a habit has you completely stuck, adding more pressure and more effort in the same failing direction doesn't break the block, it reinforces it.
That makes so much sense.
So I want you to think about this right now as you're listening. What is a stubborn habit or a creative block you are fighting today? If your instinct is pulling you one way and you just keep failing, what would the exact opposite response look like for you today?
That is a profound exercise to sit with. So paradoxical intention gives us a tool to reverse our internal habits and clear our internal blocks. But that only covers half the battle.
Right.
It is one thing to master your own mind in the quiet of your own room, but what happens when external forces completely disrupt our peace? Specifically, how do we protect our practice when other people are being awful?
Dealing with other people is really the ultimate stress test of the inner citadel. I mean, maintaining sovereignty when you are unbothered is easy. Maintaining it when you are provoked, that requires true mastery.
And the sources pull from a very famous maxim from Marcus Aurelius here. The obstacle becomes the way.
Yes.
Now, in popular culture, we usually apply that quote to broad hardships, a startup failing, a flight getting canceled, a pandemic. But Ryan Holiday clarifies that Aurelius wrote this specific meditation regarding difficult, frustrating people.
Which completely reframes the philosophy. Those thoughtless, arrogant, or infuriating people are not actually obstacles blocking your path to virtue. They are the raw material required to practice it.
It's almost like difficult people are handing you heavy weights at the gym.
Yeah.
They think they're burdening you, but they're actually just providing the resistance you need to build your virtue muscles.
That is exactly it. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about the literal, practical cost of retaliation. The novelist Maria Semple offers a stark warning about this.
What does she say?
She wrote, "The low road will always dog you."
The low road will always dog you. Meaning, like if you snap back and retaliate, that reaction follows you like a stray dog.
Yes, your brain actually struggles to differentiate between experiencing a stressful event and remembering a stressful event.
Oh, wow.
So if you take the high road, you process the frustration and you sleep well at night. But if you take the low road, if you scream at the customer service rep or send that vicious retaliatory email, your brain holds on to that physiological state.
It traps you.
10 years later, you will still be standing in the shower, replaying that moment in your head, dosing yourself with stress hormones, regretting how cruel you were. You voluntarily surrender your own peace of mind for decades just to get even for 5 seconds.
Which perfectly explains Marcus Aurelius' conclusion on the matter. As the Roman emperor, he had the power to retaliate against literally anyone on earth, yet he wrote that the absolute best revenge is simply not to be like the person who wronged you.
Because the choice of your response is the one piece of sovereign territory that can never be taken from you. It is only ever yours to give up. So to the listener, think of the last truly rude encounter you endured. Did you surrender your peace, letting them dictate your emotional state, or did you use it as practice for the person you actually want to be?
It takes immense discipline not to take the bait. But, that strategy makes sense for protecting yourself from a single rude encounter. Let's scale this up.
Yeah.
What if it's not just one frustrating person? What if the entire world feels oppressive or highly critical of your every move? How do you guard the inner citadel when the noise is constant?
To truly understand the power of the citadel, we have to look at the historical reality the Stoics actually lived through. We often picture these philosophers theorizing in, comfortable, quiet universities.
Right, in togas drinking wine.
Exactly. But Epictetus developed his philosophy while living in literal slavery. Men like Thrasea and Agrippinus maintained their principles while living under the murderous, completely unpredictable reign of the Emperor Nero.
Rulers who had absolute authority. They could confiscate your property, exile your family, or just demand your execution on a whim.
Precisely. The stakes were life and death. Yet, what is absolutely crucial here, and what completely shatters the modern stereotype of Stoicism as this bleak, emotionless endurance, is that these men didn't just maintain a grim, gritted teeth resilience. They actively maintained their joy.
Right, joy. As a defense mechanism against a tyrant.
Yes. Guarding the inner citadel is not a passive act of hiding. It is an active resistance. Continuing to love literature, choosing to smile at a neighbor, finding the capacity to laugh at the sheer dark absurdity of life under a tyrant. These aren't frivolous distractions from a hard world. They are a definitive refusal to let a hard world win.
So what does this all mean? Let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
If you were living under systemic oppression or dealing with a deeply toxic corporate environment, isn't focusing on your inner citadel and laughing at absurdity while the world burns just toxic positivity? Or burying your head in the sand? Shouldn't we be furious?
It is a totally fair critique, but it fundamentally misunderstands the psychological mechanics of control. Guarding your joy isn't a distraction from fighting the world's problems. It is the fuel required to endure the fight.
Oh, I see.
Why should the awfulness of a tyrant make you feel awful internally? If you let someone else's darkness dictate your internal emotional state, you haven't fixed the external world. You've just allowed one more space to become dark. Joy can only be surrendered, never stolen.
And part of that darkness often comes in the form of constant, unavoidable criticism.
Very absolutely.
The sources highlight that no matter what you do, no matter how much you build your citadel, you will be criticized. Marcus Aurelius ruled 50 million people, dedicated his life to philosophy, and was still widely hated. Seneca was despised by a man named Rufus.
Yeah, and even jumping to the modern day, the author Ryan Holiday notes that his daily Stoic email receives very valid criticism today. People argue it's too commercialized. And Holiday admits that from an academic perspective, those critics are often right. The discipline of the inner citadel isn't about avoiding criticism. That's mathematically impossible. The discipline is in how you sort it.
You need a filtering mechanism.
Exactly. When you face criticism, you have to run it through a practical filter. Does this piece of feedback, however harshly delivered, move me closer to the person I am actively trying to become?
That's a great question.
If yes, extract the value and use it. If no, then it is simply an uncontrollable outside opinion. Serenity depends entirely on your ability to know the difference.
Use what tempers the steel, discard the rest. So if guarding our joy, filtering the noise, utilizing paradoxical intention, and mastering our daily routines constitutes our daily work, what is the ultimate endpoint? Where does all this internal effort lead, and what does it leave behind?
For that, the sources turn to the Russian novelist Leo Tolstoy.
Okay.
He provides a foundational principle that reorders everything we've unpacked today. Tolstoy argued that love provides a person with the purpose of life, and intellect provides the means to achieve it.
Intellect is the means. Love is the purpose.
Yes. Every tool we've discussed today, the focused routine, breaking habits, taking the high road, these are all means. They are the intellect fiercely at work. But none of those tools mean anything without a profound purpose driving them.
Right.
The mathematician Blaise Pascal made a beautifully similar point. He described a human being as a grass which possesses some intellect. The intellect is what separates us from a literal blade of grass, but it is love that gives that intellect a direction to travel.
It's like building a car. Intellect is the engine, but love is the steering wheel. Without the steering wheel giving you purpose, you're just a really smart, aimless lawnmower tearing up the yard.
That perfectly captures it. And when you finally integrate both the engine of discipline and the steering wheel of purpose, you inevitably leave something remarkable behind.
Like what?
Well, Walter Isaacson observed this deeply when researching Leonardo da Vinci. Isaacson spent massive amounts of time studying da Vinci's personal notebooks, which have outlived him by over 500 years.
And it isn't just da Vinci. Marcus Aurelius's private journal survived. Seneca's personal letters survived. The frantic notes that Epictetus's student Rusticus took survived.
But Isaacson poses a quiet challenge here. Not a single one of those men was writing for us. They wrote for clarity in their own present moment. The durability of their work was just a welcome side effect.
So, should we all be writing in leather-bound journals instead of sending text messages just in case someone finds them in 500 years? Are we supposed to be constantly performing for our legacy?
No, in fact, that's the exact opposite of the point. A daily writing practice isn't actually for the reader 50 years from now. It is for the clarity it produces for you today. You don't aim to build a legacy. A life well practiced naturally leaves a durable, astonishing record.
The practice is the point.
Yeah.
Everything else is just exhaust from the engine. So to bring all of these concepts together, we have mapped out quite a blueprint today.
We really have.
We started with the realization that satisfaction is built, not bought. We looked at mastering our routines, trusting that rest completes that practice. We explored breaking stubborn habits through paradoxical intention. We learned how to turn difficult people into raw material for virtue.
And we examined how maintaining joy is the ultimate act of resistance. Intellect gives us the daily means, but love gives us the enduring reason why.
It is a highly comprehensive framework for achieving wisdom. And as the material concludes, it reminds us of Confucius's 3 specific methods for actually learning that wisdom. Reflection, which he called the noblest method, imitation, which is the easiest, and experience, which is the bitterest.
The bitterest, yes.
Because learning through experience usually means you have to make the painful mistakes yourself.
Exactly. But the ultimate goal is to be wise in our deeds. A true hero does good for the sake of the good, not for glory. The source material distills this into an ultimate checklist. When all is said and done, there are really only 3 questions that actually matter. Did I love enough? Did I laugh enough? Did I make a difference?
Did I love enough? Did I laugh enough? Did I make a difference? That cuts right through all the modern noise. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final provocative challenge to mull over on your own.
It's a vital one.
The sources insist that your joy can only be surrendered, never stolen. Think about the spaces you inhabit every single day, especially your digital ones. Are they structured to protect your inner citadel, or are they designed to subtly coax you into handing over your joy piece by piece? Right after this deep dive, take a hard look at the home screen of your phone and ask yourself, is this building my citadel or breaching it?